Did you want to say anything? There we go. The meeting's being recorded.
That's all I have to say.
Okay. It's not relevant.
No, don't touch it. Don't touch it.
Okay, so we'll just start for the people that don't know. Elaine's coming in. For the people that don't know sort of where this Mt Gillespie area is, this is Squamish over here at the head of Howe Sound, and then you drive in on the Mamquam Forest Service Road, approximately about 30 to 35 kilometers into this area here. And then we have Pinecone Lake, November Lake, and Gillespie Peak. But I'll show the next one. I'll show a bit of a close-up. So this is a close-up of the area. So basically, this year when Brian and I went in, we were able to drive up to pretty much this point here where it says the Seed Peak trailhead. And I will show the first part of it. Will be showing the trip up to Seed Peak, and then the next day we went up to Mt Gillespie, and then I'll show some pictures of a trip Don and I did into Knothole Lake and into Pinecone and Little Pinecone Lake. And then I'll show some photos of November Lake. So just to give an idea, after you drive in approximately 30 kilometers, you have a choice at this point here at the left of the screen of either going uphill on E110 or going on E100, which goes this direction here. So presently now you can only drive on E100 about this far. When we did the hike in 1997 with the Gillespie family, we were able to drive right down to November Creek, which is down here. And this year with Jeff, pardon me, with Brian, we went up E100. They've been doing some recent logging and the roads are in excellent shape. And so we were able to drive at least this far, probably even a little bit further to where they've punched a road in a little bit further. And then, so Brian and I, we did a couple of hikes from here, going up the ridge, going up to Seed Peak this way, and going over to Gillespie this way. And in 1997, with the Gillespie family, we started down here at November Creek, and we went up to November Lake, and then up through this area here, and then up to Gillespie, or Mount Gillespie. So in 2017, when I went in with Steve Chapman, the road wasn't in very good shape. This is one section where the creek had sort of blown out the road. We had trouble trying to get through this one section, but now the road looks like this. It's basically you could drive it with a car. And a section up further up the road where the road was looking like this is now perfectly drivable with a two-wheel drive vehicle. And sections like this are not looking like this. It looks like a great road. So and the simple reason for that is they're going in and they're logging old growth high up. So this is at about 1,400 meters. It's well away from the just sorry, if someone can watch the participants, there was just a couple of people in the waiting room.
Yeah, I'm letting them in, Ian.
Okay, thank you, Victoria.
Yeah.
It pops up on my screen as well. So
yeah, it's irritating, I know.
So yeah, so they're basically logging up at 1,400 meters, and by the looks of it, they're going to be putting the road in farther as well. So with this new road, it's actually taken out part of the Seed Peak trail, but in the positive side, you're able to drive up higher. So it's always that sort of give and take of getting into areas, being able to drive further and having logging. So presently the end of the road is just up here on the left, but we did notice they'd cut more trees going in sort of an eastern direction. So it looks like they're going to push the road further. But for Brian and I, this was a great camping spot. It was on the level, and so we were able to set up our tents and camp. The interesting thing is, obviously, they're going to be coming back in to take the trees out because there were an awful lot of logs that were, or down trees that were still around. And so on the first day when we drove in, we did a shorter hike, still not that short, but to Seed Peak. So from where we roughly parked, we got on the Seed Peak Trail, which is an old growth forest, and it takes you out into kind of an open ridge, a few up and down, 50 and 100 meters that you have to go up and down. This is the biggest one where you have to drop down and then come back up, and then you get up into the true sort of alpine. And at this point here is where the route to Mt Gillespie goes off, but we were heading for Seed Peak, so you sort of stay along this ridge here and get up to Seed Peak. So along the way, there's one section that there was a fixed rope, but most of it was pretty easy going, except for the uphills on the way back. And after half an hour or so, you actually get to the provincial park boundary, meaning Pinecone Burke Provincial Park. So the trail's over here on the right, following the ridge, and this is the section where there's the biggest drop of about 100 meters, dropping down and then having to come back up sort of into the true alpine area. Mount Gillespie is on the right over here, and Seed Peak is over on the left.
It's a lovely shot.
And this is another shot, just a close up looking up towards Seed Peak. So this photo was taken in 2004, looking at Mount Gillespie on the left, the Five Fingers, what I believe is the Golden Ears Range here, and then Mount Baker in the background.
Wow.
And then over on the right is Meslillooet. So I'll get back to this, but showing the glacier, how much it's receded since. I'll show some photos from '97 later on, but this area here I was in 2004. So again, just showing the glacier a bit more, how close it was. And this is this is from this year. So I'll have them sort of side by side. So here we have a couple of photos side by side. So the one on the top left is from this year, and the one on the sort of the bottom right is from 2004. So if you look at this hump here, that's the same hump here.
Yeah.
So the glacier is probably somewhere around about right here,
Yeah.
where it was in 2004. And of course, filling this whole area where this mound here, the glacier was probably up to about this line here, which is right about in here. And that's just showing it again from this year.
It's not even 10.
And again, that was the one mound that we saw where the glacier in 2004 was probably up around this height. So. And then this photo again is of Mount Gillespie, taken from the Seed Peak Trail, and just showing that the sort of the standard route now is coming over this ridge and dropping down and going around the glacier and then coming up and then going up this section here and up onto the ridge. But I personally think there's an easier way of going, but we can talk about that later. So this was again from 2004, looking at Pinecone Lake from the top of Seed Peak. At that time, the hike was known as, in the 103 Hikes book, as Pinecone Lake. Same 2004 again. And this is a little Pinecone Lake, and I'll show some photos later on of a hike that Don and I did right into Little Pinecone Lake. And that's from this year. This is Brian's photo. You know, beautiful colors.
Hmm.
And then just a real nice wide angle. So Pinecone Lake flows into the upper pit. And I believe this is Pinecone Peak over here. This is the highest peak in the park. And this is showing Pinecone Peak here. And this little pass through here is the route that you take coming from Knothole Lake if you want to drop down into Pinecone Lake. If I would have known at the time that Pinecone, when I was in there with Don, I think it was in 97, I think, or it might have been 98. If I would have known Pinecone Peak was the highest peak in the park, we would have gone up to it, but I didn't even really know about it at the time. So, and I just want to, this is just a close up. I'll go back. Just showing this section here. You see this little marking here. The next photo is a close up of this. And I'll show a photo later on when I show photos of Knothole and Pinecone Lake. But I remember going through there and thinking that this was like this glorious staircase. So so anyways, I'll show a photo later on about that. And this is looking at Mamquam Mountain and Garibaldi and Atwell. So looking more to the northwest. And then we'll get on to the Mount Gillespie trip. That was our second day that Brian and I were there. So going back to 97 when we went, November Lake is just down out of the photo below. And so in 97, we went up to November Lake, and then the exact route, not 100% sure, but we did go along the edge here. We didn't gain the ridge. And then we came out near where the creek comes out of the glacier bowl, which is the glacier bowl in here. And then we joined on to what Brian and I did this year, and then up to the top of Mount Gillespie. This year, Brian and I went up the sort of what I guess now is kind of known as the standard route for going to Mount Gillespie, which is also the Seed Peak Trail up until about this point here. And then Seed Peak takes off to the left, and you head over upon Alpine Ridge. You have to drop down to the outlet of the glacier. And when Brian and I went up, we went downstream a little ways, and then had to go up some real steep areas, and then eventually found our way into this boulder sort of chute, which was quite good. And it took us up, and then it was easy getting up onto the actual Gillespie Ridge, and then up to the summit. On the way down, we came down what I would sort of call what people are calling the standard route. It drops down to I lost my cursor here. It drops down into a col, but it's quite loose and steep in sections. So we came down, and it wasn't too bad, but it's not the best. And then we had to go on some snow and along the edge of the glacier to get back around. So this is once you're up on the ridge, probably half an hour or so up the trail, you can look back towards, this is Mamquam Mountain and Garibaldi. And you can see the meadowy kind of areas below, which we would have walked through some of those. And that's a close-up of Mamquam. And Jim, you'd mentioned, what's it called, Castle Towers or something like that? Did you call those? I haven't figured out what those ones are, but they're pretty impressive peaks.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. That was kind of my guess.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then sort of again, a little bit further up the ridge, looking down at the trail that we'd come up and looking at Haybridge and Sky Pilot. So those two mountains aren't too far from Squamish.
Mhm.
And then along the ridge, we got little peekaboo views looking down at November Lake. It's a very glacier colored lake. And that's another. Now this photo was from '97. We were closer to November Lake as we were walking up the slope to the north of November Lake. Didn't take a lot of photos on that trip, except at the summit. And again, this was another one from '97. So somewhere, we came in through here, and then eventually made our way up to the Alpine area. And then once again, crossing the park boundary. This is still on like the Seed Peak Trail, and looking at Gillespie in the background. Again, along the trail, just before we're about to drop off. And November Lake is down in this area here.
I'm glad you found those old photos of November Lake, because they give real clues as to the path that you took.
Yeah.
Like going along the side of the ridge there.
Yeah. I thought I was going to show something with this. So I guess one thing that you can always tell Mount Gillespie by this real cut here on the right-hand side. So when you're on the other side, sort of on the Boise Valley area, when you look at the slope, it looks like just like it'd be a beautiful walk, going up this ridge here and going to the top of Gillespie, but you've got this major cut that they'd have to deal with.
Mhm.
So again, that's the cut there, and looking at Judge Howey in the background. And that's looking over towards Ms. Lillooet and the Five Fingers on the left over here. Okay, so sometimes I look at these photos and I'm thinking, what is that of? So this is actually where we've come from. So this is the actual route that you have to drop down, come up, and then drop down again. So November Lake is off to the left, and where we camped and parked is down, way down below these slopes here. But yeah, the trail basically, it might go off a little bit, but it stays pretty much on this sort of ridge here. And then once you gain sort of the true Alpine, there's a little nice lake there. And I believe Meshtill, this was the lake that you camped at. And you get a bit of a view of Mount Gillespie. And so a nice tarn right there. And from photos that I'd seen before, it didn't look like the camping was very good there, but there are quite a few sites around there where that's level and you could put your tent.
Yeah, Ian, we camped a little bit past that.
Okay. On another little lake?
It was that lake, but it was a bit further, like 50, 100 meters further or so.
Okay.
And it was flat. So.
Yeah. Surprisingly. And then this is where you branch off the Seed Peak Trail and you start heading towards Gillespie, and you have to go over sort of a rocky ridge, and you've got this glacier bowl to the north of you, and it's extremely melting. I saw some photos from July and August, and there really wasn't much water showing, but in early September, there was a lot of water showing. And again, lots of water showing. And this is looking right across the bowl, the glacier bowl, and looking sort of in the direction of Seed Peak. Same sort of direction. Just looking at how the ice fractures and that, I thought was quite interesting. Real sort of like straight lines. And then one spot was sort of a round pond, which was interesting. That was actually quite close to the edge of the Seed Peak Trail. Wasn't too much higher than this spot. And just some interesting rock, different types of rocks sort of melted together.
It's as if it's a drain, isn't it?
And then this is where the creek flows out of the glacier bowl, and it flows down into November Lake from here. So we walked across this on our way to Mount Gillespie, and then crossed the creek. I think we came through. You can see a bit of the glacier in the back right, and then we crossed this little snowfield here, came along. And then somewhere around in here, we crossed the creek. Now the next photo, this is showing, we didn't actually walk down here, but this is where the creek heads off. And at some point it just drops off down to November Lake. And when we came up in 97, we must have come up through this area somewhere to get around this hump here and then up into this boulder chute that I'll show you in some photos up ahead. So yeah, so this is sort of a moraine coming down. Brian and I had to go up a couple of like steep sections, probably 10 or 15 feet, almost straight up and down to get up onto this moraine. And then we got up onto the top edge of this moraine and found out that we had to drop down again to get into this boulder chute here that took us up right up into sort of this point up in here. And then it was quite easy to get from here up onto the main Gillespie Ridge. And I believe, Meshtel, that this boulder chute here, right on the other side of it going down the other way, is the sort of the snow ramp or the snow bit that you guys were using to at least go down.
Yes, we did.
So that's the boulder chute that I was talking about. You can see November Lake in the background. It was a little bit steep, but pretty easy to go up.
How's your ankles? Yes, I was watching.
And then this is once you're up on the ridge. This photo was taken in 97. And I've got a comparison of now in 97, but a lot more snow in 97. You can see all the snow coming off of this side. You'll see some photos later, but there's all kinds of glaciers on the east side of Gillespie as well. So this is the summit of Gillespie up ahead here. And this is taken this year.
No snow.
And practically the same angle from 97, and then comparison. So you can see this face here is that face there. So this whole section here in 97 was snow. Some years we have more snow than other years, but it's the glacier meltings that's the real problem. And this is looking off to the east side, all draining into the upper pit. So again, these are all glaciers in here. And I've got a comparison photograph coming up on this as well.
Do they have photos of the pit?
So yeah, so I'll show a photo here. This is from 97, and then this should be a comparison photo. Yeah, so here's a comparison photo. So this little bit here is this bit here.
Yeah.
So again, this looks like snow on top. This looks like just exposed glacier. But this whole pocket in back in here was much, much bigger. And of course, this was filled in a lot more. So left was this year, right is 1997.
Did you have these photographs with you?
No,
Yeah, so that you could take another picture from the same place.
no, I just lucked out.
You're lucky.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Or very
I've
memory.
done some cropping to make them look, as close as possible.
Nevertheless.
But yeah, they're very how would I say, spots that you would take photos from. So it's
Okay.
Okay.
yeah. The one photo, I don't have a comparison photo for this. This is from this year, and this is a glacier lake that's forming, where I'm sure probably in 97 there was no like liquid there. It would have been all ice.
Nice, yeah.
But I don't have a comparison photo for this one. And same with this one. This is from 97, showing the bowl, and I don't have this exact sort of comparison. Sea Peak is back up in here. That's probably back in there is probably Pinecone Peak, or maybe no, it's probably this one actually. Not sure, it's either that one or that one. But I do have a bit of a comparison with this one in a photo from taken lower down, where it's this photo here. On the left is from 97, on the right is this year. And as far as I can tell, this bit of rock here is probably that rock there. I'm not positive about that, but
Yeah.
it looks pretty similar. And if that's the case, that I'm not sure, but that could be 30 or 40 feet or more of distance. So
That's a lot of snow missing.
so back
Yeah.
yeah. So back on to heading towards the summit of Gillespie. And so we'll talk about the crux of doing Gillespie, that there's a sort of a little, call it a chimney or a steep section right in here. When we did it in 97, I don't even remember anything remotely being difficult. So, and other people I've talked to don't seem to remember it either, but I'm sure it was there because it's in the photographs. So this is the crux right in here. It doesn't look bad, but it isn't that bad, but it was so narrow that my pack got stuck in it when I was trying to go up it. So anyways, so this is going back to 97 with the Gillespie family and friends. So I can go through the different people in the photo. There's two people in the photo. I can't remember what their names are, but so starting on the left, of course, this is Don. This is John Gillespie. Evan Gillespie, which is Don Jr.'s son and Don's grandson. Got Mark Johnson in the back here, who's on the call. Don Jr. Gillespie. Frank Nick. Myself. And I can't remember these two guys' names, but they were friends of John Gillespie's. And this is Brenda Guild Gillespie, the Don Jr.'s wife. Dave Richardson, Ken Baker, and David Hennessy. And Dave's living in France now, and he would have liked to have been on this call, but it's 4 o'clock in the morning his time. So he's going to watch the recording of it. So we got a photo of the 3 generations of Gillespies. And one thing, just kind of a neat story to tell now, that I made this sign, ahead of time without Don knowing about it. And it came in pieces. So it had a base, it had the stand, and then had the sign. And 3 different people carried different sections of this up, trying to hide it from Don. And actually Don Jr., I believed, carried the full sign. And it was literally just kind of like hanging off the back of his pack. And I'm thinking, Don's gonna see this or something. And as far as I know, he didn't. Because boy, was quite surprised when we, pulled this thing out and assembled it and headed up there to take all these photos on that with. So
Beautiful sign.
Yeah.
So then a photo of Don here, and just take note of this rock to the left here, because what I didn't do when I was up there this year was actually find this exact sort of spot. I wasn't really thinking about it at the time, but I think I figured out where it was. So
Ian,
yes,
quick question. How old is Don in that picture?
66.
66. Okay.
I think, or yeah, because his birthday, 66.
Okay, thanks.
That's how old you are, isn't it, Jeff?
It is.
Yes, as Victoria well knows. I won't say how Victoria knows.
No.
And how do I know too, though? So this rock here, as far as I know, is the rock that was in that photo. So I'm pretty sure our group photo was taken right in this area here. And basically where Brian is standing taking this photo is pretty much the summit. So it was right close to where the summit was. And I'm just trying to think here. I think this pile of rocks here,
Yeah, it was in there.
is where the sign ended up getting put, and I'll show that photo. So there it is. So when we left the site in '97, we had the stand is underneath this, or the base of it, I should say, and then there's the post, and then the sign on top, and then we packed it all, with rocks all around it. And probably not until 10, maybe 15 years ago, I saw pictures of people that had been up on Gillespie, and the sign was still there. And I was just so amazed that, it's made of cedar and that. And, I figured, there's so many signs that go missing in that I was surprised that it had broken off of the post, but yet people were still, leaving it behind. And we actually did find the base for it.
Yeah.
That was still in the rock pile. It was only made of plywood, but it was still there, but no sign of the actual post. But the and there it is there if you look off to the left. So this is sort of the true summit of Gillespie. At the time there was a communications tower on top. And so that's where we left the sign. And at the time we called it Gillespie Mountain, but this was right after it had been named. It was officially named Mount Gillespie. So some caring people actually, after the communications tower was taken out, they actually used the studs from the communication tower base to tie the sign onto. And you can see how sort of weathered it's been. It's, it's lost most of its paint. You can still read it. Yeah. So this is the true summit of Gillespie right in here. And then this is sort of the way that when Brian and I, we got our sort of our summit photo, and we brought up a new sign to put up. So I've retired the old sign. I have it at home, and it'll come out on special occasions. Couple things, it'd been up there for 24 years. I kind of don't want it to go missing. It's spent its time up on the peak for long enough.
Yeah.
And the other two things that the sign says Gillespie Mountain, where it's actually known as Mount Gillespie, and the elevation now is known as 2021 rather than 2018. We used to just call it Peak 6600. That's what it was known as. But so that's what I went by for the elevation. So now that's how the new sign is mounted. and I took up an assortment of nuts, so I could sort of put some nuts down on the sign to sort of hold it in place better, and also took measurements of the actual sort of triangle. So if the Gillespie family want to, you know, have something more permanent, that we have the measurements that they could actually have something made and put up there. So. So some photos from '97. The weather wasn't the best when we were up there, but it was, you know, there were clouds around, but they were high clouds. So that's looking over at Meslillowit. And also from '97, looking at the Five Fingers. And Baker would have been over here somewhere. I'm not sure if that's part of, I think it is actually. Yeah, I think that's part of Golden Ears actually. I'm not positive. And then more recent, again showing you know, a zoomed in of the Five Fingers, Golden Ears, and Mount Baker. And then also Meshtol to be happy. I haven't sent these to her yet, but Meshtol was up there twice this year, once in July and once in August. She's with Coquitlam Search and Rescue. And so we also got the copy of when you're up there in August as well. So the ladies went and they took some of the SAR guys with them too. So. And then Brian and I, this is in the summit log, and so Brian wrote up something, you know, here for Don Gillespie, forever remembered. The only problem is he asked me what the date was, and I said I think it's the 6th. Well, it turns out we were up there on the 7th, but we'll just have to go back and change the date on that. So.
Yeah.
And then from the summit, looking down at November Lake.
Actually, I'm going down.
And so when we went up in,
You're getting something from the basement fridge?
get me something from the basement fridge too.
Yeah. Have you got a beer?
Yes. So when we went up in '97, just down here is the road we're able to drive to. And we hiked up through here, which Mark remembers it being about 45 minutes. And we dropped our packs and stuff here, and then we hiked up somewhere through here. Some people remember that it was quite steep where we went up, so we probably climbed up somewhere where we were actually pulling ourselves up on the blueberries, and not till we got up into more the sort of open area. But on the way back down, we went further along and found a nice ridge to take us down towards the end of the lake. And then on the second day when we were up there in '97, we went over into this area over here, which is to the southeast of Mount Gillespie. And Jeff Rudd and myself plan to do a future show and share on that area in the next few months or something like that.
Ian, have you been to there at the same month that you've been in '97?
Yes, I think most of in '97 it was in about the first or second week of September, and that's just for me. September's the best month for hiking, especially in the alpine areas and that. So,
thank you.
Yeah. I'm trying. Oh, I was trying to remember what this photo was of. So this is a photo of the way we came down. So this is it doesn't look that slippery, or maybe I should say loose, but the trail or route, maybe I should say, kind of just goes up through this section here, and you have to pick your way through the rocks. And once you get through this section here and up on top, you join on to the way that Brian and I went up. But anyways, we came down this way. And then there was one section we had to sort of cross the edge of the glacier and that. So we just joined together with a rope just in case one of us went sliding. As you can see, we had water not too far from us.
Yeah.
You never know if it's going to give way. And then on our way down, it was a long day and a late day, and anyways, we had a nice sunset on our hike down the ridge on the way down. So now I'll get into some photos of Knothole and Pinecone lakes. So for this hike, this is Knothole Lake. I believe this photo was taken in 1999, and it was I think it was in October. And I was quite amazed to see glaciers still on the lake in October, knowing that if there's ice on the lake in October, this isn't new ice. This is ice, from the previous winter. That ice isn't going to melt. That's going to be there for another year. And so we had big snow years in 99 and 2000. So this was part of it. Knothole Lake was one that took me many attempts to get to it. Mark Haddock had told me, he'd been there and he had driven there. So I go off, in my truck, and I'm looking for these roads to drive up and I can't find it. Every road I get up is not the right one and Don and I even did an overnight trip off of one of the roads trying to find it. And we ended up actually up on the ridge, looking down into November Lake, and that was the wrong way. Mm-hmm. And anyways, then I finally talked to Mark again, and I asked him about this, about you drove there, and he said, well, I took my motorbike. And I went, you took your motorbike? Well, that's totally different than driving in a truck. So then I started looking for overgrown roads, and then that's when Don and I found it. So Don and I went up there, and when we went up there, we were planning on a 7-day trip up in the area. Ended up only being in there for 4 days because the weather started getting kind of cloudy on us. But anyways, I'll go through some of the photos here. So I've been to Knothole Lake a few times, and you can go through this sort of little pass through here, and then you can look down into Pinecone Lake. So this is where Don and I camped, both going and coming back when we did our 4-day trip in the area. So once you leave Knothole Lake, I call this sort of, it looks like a dam. It's a snow sort of wall that you go up around to the right of it. And then from up there, that's looking back down at Knothole Lake.
That's good to have someone there.
And then this was the staircase that I was talking about earlier that I think it looks so cool. This actually gives you access. If you did go up this, it would give you access onto the ridge, and then this ridge would take you to Pinecone Peak. So once you cross over the pass, you look down into Pinecone Lake and Little Pinecone Lake over on the left. So when Don and I went down, I think we headed basically down here and then ended up right at Pinecone Lake. And then we went around and up to Pinecone Lake. And then after we camped at Pinecone Lake, and then the next day we did a little day trip up right to the end of Pinecone Lake, and looking down into the Upper Pit River, which I'll show some photos of. So this was on another just day trip. It's Mark Johnson in the photo. This photo ended up being used in the 103 Hikes books. And then this is the ridge, I believe, that goes from the Knothole Lake area to Seed Peak. And I don't know, Jeff, have you figured out if you walked this or not, or?
Yeah, we walked from Knothole Lake to Seed Peak.
Okay.
But it must have been, it wasn't on the ridge crest because there are too many cuts and drops in it. So
yeah, and not on the north side. It had to be
on the other side.
On the other side, yeah. And so this is down at Pinecone Lake, at lake level, and some nice flowers. We found some sort of odds and ends of things at the lake. We even found a 50-pound bag of carrots there. And my thought on it was that somebody come in by float plane and they were hunting goats is what I was thinking. And then we hiked over to Little Pinecone Lake, a beautiful stream coming out of Little Pinecone.
The flowers.
Oh, yeah.
And then this was our campsite.
Oh,
It's
that's
not very often that you see Don just sort of laying down, resting. But what was quite interesting about this, you can see my orange tarp on my pack here, but later on there was sort of some rocks or something over here, and I'd hung this orange tarp up. We used it to, put our packs and that underneath at night. And Don and I, we were just, sitting here relaxing and resting, and this plane came over. And it was flying around, and then all of a sudden, the wings sort of tipped over and circled around, seeing all of our stuff, laying all over the place, just drying it out. And Don says, "Don't wave, don't wave," and we were just thinking, oh, because Pitt Meadows Airport isn't very far from here,
Right, yeah.
as a plane flies. And we were just hoping that there wasn't going to be a helicopter coming to,
To rescue.
see if we were okay or not. But I don't think pilots would see too many groups where we were. So we were kind of, right on that divide of the Pitt watershed. So I went for a swim in Little Pinecone. And that's to the east of Little Pinecone, looking down. And then this is at the east end of Pinecone Lake, looking up to where we came through, which was here, and Pinecone Peak up here. And also, you can from this area you can see Mt Gillespie. So it's interesting, from Mt Gillespie you can't actually see Pinecone Lake, but you can see Little Pinecone. And you can see as these ridges, they block your view from, but we were high enough up that we could see Mt Gillespie. And I'm just thinking, not sure if this or this might be Seed Peak here. Yeah, one of these. I guess I have to look. Part of it's being blocked out for me, but and then that's just a close up looking at Mt Gillespie and all the glaciers that are in between the two. Some people have gone from the Mt Gillespie area down to Pinecone Lake this way, but there's a lot of difficult sort of sections that you have to go through. And then looking over the other side, this is Pinecone Creek, and it's flowing into the upper pit, not too far away from the hot springs. And actually, Don and I were up there and we were looking at it and we're thinking, man, the logging roads are just right there. We could hike out, like today, we could easily hike down and hike out the upper pit and that. And we kind of thought about it, but it was like, no, we'll go back the way we came. So, and then on our return trip up on the ridge past Knothole Lake, we saw a couple of marmots.
Yeah.
And we actually saw a goat just as we kind of got back to the road system. I didn't get a photo of it, but we saw this goat. And as you know, when they put in logging roads, they do a big cut. So usually there's a really steep section on the uphill side of the logging roads. And Don and I saw this goat, and it kind of like looked at us, and then it just went like straight up this super steep section. And when it got, whatever, 3/4 of the way or most of the way up this embankment, and kind of like looked back and said, "Try and follow me." And we thought that was just great. So I'll show some photos of November Lake and the Boise West Trailhead area. So this is the way the road is today. So this basically as far as you can drive on the E100. But we do have some plans to go in there and at least clear it out so it's easier to walk. So these are compliments of Jeff, some photos here looking at the old road. and it gets pretty thick in places.
Goodness.
Yeah.
And other places it's not so bad, but it's you know, it's hard to imagine. This was, we drove this many times, you know, in the 90s. But you know, the old road bed is still there. This is getting down towards November Creek isn't too far from here, and the trail that or the old Fool's Gold Trail goes off. I believe it's right about here, that where it joins on and sort of gets into the old growth trees. So we were hoping to go in there this year, but the weekend we picked was a rainy weekend, so we didn't end up going. So this is November Lake, looking up at Mt Gillespie. And this would be I believe this is the creek that's coming out of the Glacier Bowl. So that's November Lake. Again, you know, somewhere along in here, when in 97, we walked, you know, along in here somewhere and found our way up into that that boulder sort of chute there, and then onto the ridge that goes up to the summit of Mount Gillespie.
It's much easier to pick from this angle where you may have actually gone. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's still, as Mark and I were talking about it the other night, and you know, trying to remember different ways. Now, when we, like I said, when we came back, I remember it being better as well. In that we stayed higher for longer coming back, and then dropped down at the end of the lake. So I'd really like to investigate it, because you start down lower, but you don't have all the ups and downs to do like you do when you go over the top of the ridge, which is over here.
Yeah.
And another one of November Lake and Gillespie in the background. And so this photo was taken a week or so before Don, John, and myself did the Fool's Gold Trail from this area to Coquitlam. And a friend of mine and I, we drove in there just to check out the roads. And at the trail, basically the trailhead for the Fool's Gold Trail is just up here. And there was a Volvo parked there. And even at that, I was, you know, the roads were in a lot better shape in those days, but it still amazed me that a Volvo was parked there. And again, not knowing it at the time when I took the photo, but this is Mount Gillespie in the background. So I think I've got a photo of, this is basically what the road looks like now. The bridge is gone. They've decommissioned the road and just, you know, more or less made a mess of it is what's happened. So just a photo of John, pardon me. This is John Gillespie, Don, of course, and myself. I think this was, I should know it, but I think it's 94 when we did the full Fool's Gold Trail, and that Volvo would have been parked, you know, just right up here. So what happened in this area when it was being proposed as a park, which at this point it became a park in 95. So this was before it became a park. And Elaine knows this story here, that the Wilderness Committee had put a trail in. This was all old growth all through this section here. And the logging company begged, you know, that they needed those trees, that they had to have those trees, you know, to make a go of it. So they went in, they cut these trees down while the stakeholders and the steering group was looking at the proposed park. And they went in and cut down all the trees, but they didn't take them out. They just left them there. And so, you know, they really didn't need the trees. They just wanted to, you know, get the trees dropped and on the ground before it became a park. But anyways, they did go in later and take the trees out. And then a while after that, they decommissioned the road. So this is the sign, one of Doug Benny's old signs for the Boise West Trailhead. And it was interesting, when I was in there in 2017, we were trying to find the old trail. and it was horrendous, as Steve remembers, trying to climb from that road below up to this point here. We did end up finding sort of almost like an avalanche chute to end up coming up in. And literally I came out at this point here and put two big flagging marks, pieces of flagging on this little tree here, not realizing this was the same tree that the old sign was on. Now the old sign isn't on that tree anymore. But now I want to go back and see if the sign is just laying on the ground below that tree. So, yeah, I didn't realize until I got home and looked at my photos that I was standing right beside the tree that that had the sign on it. But anyways, just a little lesson for people that on this trip, you can see all the stuff hanging off my pack. This was my old pack I used to use, and my rain jacket is hanging off of the back of my pack. And on about day 4, I lost my rain jacket. And this was between the Bull Valley and Debec Valley. And lucky enough, the next year, we got a grant money to take a helicopter into the head of Debec Creek, because we were marking the Debec route or trail. And sure enough, the helicopter dropped us off at one point, and we had to search around and try and find where we had finished putting up flagging the year before. And Don actually found my rain jacket. And still in the pocket of my rain jacket was the Wilderness Committee map for this area. And so I still have that jacket and I still use it. And yeah, it's getting close to 30 years old now. So so this is, so I guess this is showing Gillespie and the ridge that leads off towards Seed Peak, would be in behind there. But also wanted to show this photo because when Jeff and I do a co-presentation, we'll show this whole area down below here. It's got a whole bunch of lakes, beautiful flowers and that. So looking forward to doing that presentation at another time. And again, showing Don here as a little speck down in the bottom here, looking up at Mt Gillespie.
Gives you an idea of the scale, eh?
And then famous photo of Don. This is Don and John Gillespie looking at Mount Gillespie, not knowing at the time that this mountain was going to be named after him. So this at the time, this peak was known as Peak 6600.
Great photo.
Yeah. So thanks very much. So future presentations that I'd like to do of this area, as I mentioned, the lake area southeast of Mount Gillespie, and do that with Jeff Rudd. And I'm putting together a Fool's Gold Trail presentation for Coquitlam Search and Rescue. So I would also like to show that to BMN as well. And if there's anybody that wants to stick around and talk about different routes in the area, I'm certainly more than willing to do that. But I will I'll stop sharing my screen here so I can see everybody. And if anybody has any questions or anything.
That was great, Ian. You know, Bruce is going to be really sorry that he missed this. He's up in the upper pit right now fishing.
Oh, wow.
He'll get his chance. He'll get his chance.
I would have been up there with him if and not doing the presentation. No, no, the upper pit is a spectacular area. So, but it's been recorded, and so he can watch it, and I would be happy to do this again if there's people interested as well. You know, I just love this area and I love talking about it. So
you've got some truly iconic photos of it as well.
Oh, beautiful photos. Just love the panoramas.
Yeah, a lot of those panoramic photos, those are Brian's. Brian had some great photos from our trip this year.
Way to go, Brian.
Yep. I just from my perspective, I'm not a technical hiker or a climber. That's why Ian has been doing this. It was a personal thing for me, and I really, as I put in the newsletter, it was really quite special for me to be able to have the opportunity to go with Ian and do the trip. It was really quite special. In memory of Don, to honour him and to
Ever come across a guy called Jowett, Sam Jowett? He's
No,
an old friend of ours.
I don't.
He was a great hiker in this neck of the woods, and he used to lead groups of people out into the mountains, I believe. But he was quite a mountain man.
Okay, and say the name again.
Jowett, Sam Jowett.
No, it doesn't ring any bells with me.
No, I wondered if it could have been part of your group at some point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
don't remember it.
we did a few hikes back in Montreal.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of a lot of places and a lot of groups that that hike in the southwestern British Columbia. So
Really, yeah.
Mark, any comments of our trip from '97?
Well, I remember it as being a wonderful trip. Looking at your pictures, it's a little hard to remember traversing all those different places, but I sort of have memories of certain things that we crossed and so on. But
Yeah, like as I said, my memory of between November Lake and the sort of the ridge of Gillespie is gone practically. And there were some things that Mark talked about, and I can look at it and see it in the photos, but I don't remember actually doing it. And talking to Dave Richardson, he said all I remember is having to pull myself up on these blueberries and stuff, and I don't remember it being difficult at all. And like I said, that sort of that little narrow spot where we had to sort of go through that, we had 13 people up there on the summit, and they weren't seasoned hikers, and everybody made it up. And part of the group went, drove from the Vancouver area up there, did the summit, and drove home again that night.
Wow.
And half the group, I'd say, stayed overnight, and we did another day hike the next day. And that's the area that we went into. That's the area that Jeff and I will do a presentation on. So
I was telling Ian before the meeting started tonight that I found an article that Ken Baker had written for the BMN newsletter in December 1997. And it's worth pulling up and reading it. It's very poetic. It's a wonderful trip, a wonderful tribute to Don, but it's not particularly helpful in terms of details of our route. Although he does mention that we had lunch by a stream that was emanating from an ice flow, which I remember. I do have a memory of that as well.
And I don't even remember having lunch.
He also mentions that we had, once we got to November Lake, when we were starting out, we got into November Lake. We apparently had a snack there and hung around for about 45 minutes before we actually started the hike and continued the hike. So I think we left probably some of our equipment at November Lake. I don't think we actually completely set up our camp, but then we just shouldered day packs for the rest of the trip. And I do remember, as apparently Dave Richardson remembers as well, and Ken Baker mentions in his article, having to use a blueberry bush belay to gain quite a bit of the altitude towards the ridge. But on the way back, as Ian mentioned, we did find an easier way where we could pretty much just walk down through open forest right to the lake shore.
One of the things that I do remember is John Gillespie and I, when we got back to camp, we had our dinner, and it was getting to the point that it was getting, cooling down and almost starting to get dark. And John and I went for a swim in November Lake.
Ooh.
And that was one of the, it's glacier, right? It's,
Glacier.
and, but yeah, I remember being, super, super cold. And right afterwards, getting into my sleeping bag and just trying to warm up.
I was on that night that we stayed there. I was sharing a tent with Frank Nick, who many of you will know, and close friend of Don's, same age. And I had found the climb fairly arduous, partly because I had an underlying medical condition that hadn't been diagnosed yet. But I was asking, as we were lying in Frank's tent and there was a light rain falling on the canvas, I asked Frank, how he stayed in shape, or because he seemed to be unfazed, by this hike we had just did. And he says, well, I just walk on the dikes every day. And I was trying to compute, how does walking on dikes translate into climbing a mountain? But
Wow.
Yeah, Frank Nick is 6 months younger than Don, and just celebrated his 90th birthday this year. And but Frank has climbed Golden Ears about 30 times.
Has he really? Wow.
Yeah. So, Frank talks about walking on the dike, but
he didn't mention climbing Golden Ears, but
exactly.
I did know that about him.
And knowing Frank, there's a bunch of stories about Frank as well that are pretty impressive in that. But yeah, Frank wouldn't have just kept in shape just walking on the dike. He climbed, went up on Burke an awful lot, and I did a lot of overnight trips in that with Frank. So.
And one thing that I remember that I'm not sure if Ian remembers this or not, but we did back in '97, we did walk on snow quite some distance to gain the peak. And I remember the snow was sort of falling off quite sharply on one side. So it may not have been the wisest thing to walk that snow, but that's what we did.
Yeah, I didn't include it, but I've got a photo looking down the Gillespie Ridge, people walking on the snow, but they weren't that close to the edge. I remember
we weren't right on the edge, but
no.
it did fall off on one.
I remember it being talked about that watch out for the cornices. So and those if you don't know what cornices are, they're the overhanging of the snow. So if you go right up to the edge of the snow, it can break off and you fall. So. But I did show some photos of some of the snow on the ridge going up to Mount Gillespie. So that would have been some of the snow we would have walked on.
Right.
I marvel at how you find your way. You keep talking about a trail, but there isn't really a trail. So, you go up someplace. What if it just dead ends? How do you know how to get up there?
And that happened to us, that because I was torn between knowing the route that I'd gone up before and, taking Meshfeld's advice on, the way that she'd gone up and other people had gone up. And so I was torn between the two of which way to go up. Now, one thing I didn't mention was when Brian and I were doing on Seed Peak on the first day, when we were coming down, it was around like 5:30 or 6 o'clock at night when we were coming down, still in the Alpine area. And we looked over towards Mount Gillespie and we could see this steep section coming out of the col. We could see people over there. And there was about 3 or 4 people that were over there. And then we saw them climbing up, and it's kind of like the weirdest thing, like how steep it looked. And you can just see these outline of these people climbing up this steep part out of this col. And then lucky enough the next day, because Brian and I had gone back to where we parked and camped there, and then
it was quite late when we saw them, right? That was late in the day.
It was 6 o'clock or so, and they were heading up towards Gillespie, and that sort of surprised me as well. That so late in the day that they were heading up towards Gillespie, because they only had an hour or so of good daylight, and so anyways, the next day, Brian and I, we came back and we got to that little lake right up in the Alpine, and all of a sudden these four guys come along. And so we get chatting with them and asked them, where they camped, and they actually camped on the Gillespie Summit Ridge. And we explained to them that we saw them, going up there, and they said, yeah, they thought about, they weren't sure if they were going to camp right on the summit. They took their overnight gear right to the summit of Gillespie.
Really?
And thinking they might camp there, but then they decided to come back down. And then, obviously at the time I didn't know it, but then I thought about it afterwards. So I thought, I carry a big day pack. My day pack that I was carrying is a 55-liter pack. And my pack kind of got stuck in this little chimney trying to go up to the summit. I'm thinking, how did they get their packs through this little chimney thing, right? But anyways, it was just interesting, seeing these guys, later in the day going up, and they said they had a, wonderful sunset from up there, and, it was really, really neat to be up in there. But yeah, it was interesting to see these guys one night and then be able to talk to them the next day.
Yeah.
And that was one of the, because after I talked to him, I said, we saw you going up that steep section out of the coal. And I said, what is it like? And they said, well, it's loose. And I wasn't liking that. That's why I was sort of avoiding that. That's why we went up a different way. And to get back to your point, Victoria, saying about that, well, how do you know where to go? And, I did have a GPS with me, that thanks to Dean lending me his GPS and that. And it had a route for Gillespie in there, but it also had basically just walking straight across this glacier that is now water. So we couldn't quite follow that. But it showed going up this steep loose section. And again, I wasn't liking that too much. So I kind of diverted to the route that we'd done in 97. But, your memory from that far back is difficult. And anyways, we got into an area where we were trying to pick our way through it, and we're thinking from a distance it looked like we could get up one section, but then when you get there it's too steep. But then there were at least one section, if not two, that we had to climb more or less kind of straight up and down for 10 to 15 feet to get to a spot where we could start walking again. And now I know that looking down from the top, that if we would have come up from November Lake, you can avoid these steep sections. But anyways, it's just to say, it's trial and error sometimes.
And no helpful little cans of rocks, little piles of rocks showing you that this is the way.
Yeah, very little, and there's not sort of enough of a footbed. There'd be some place, certainly when you got onto the ridge of Gillespie, there was a more or less footbed, going up, because the ridge is so narrow. But on the real rocky areas, it was, you're just picking your own way.
I have that memory from 1997 too, of sometimes having to walk laterally from our direction of travel just to find a place where we could either climb down or climb up and continue in the direction we wanted to go.
Yeah, you never know what's ahead of you. There was one section that I looked across, and and it looked perfectly fine, that you could just, from a distance, look like you just walk straight across it. Well, when you get to it, there's a giant dip, that you got to drop down and come back up again. But that's just the nature of hiking in the alpine areas. Is things look different from a distance away.
That's a great presentation, Ian. Thank you.
Great. You're very welcome.
Yeah. We look forward to the next one.
The next one.
Good.
That was super.
Good. Glad I enjoyed it.
Okay, so we will leave you and see you again.
Yes. Leave at any
Thank
time. Don't feel that you have to stick around.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
Ian, I had a question about Knothole Lake.
Yeah.
So I remember being up there. I can't remember if we had to go all the way around to that pass to get higher, or whether we could go partway around the lake and then go more directly to a high point. Do you remember?
Are you talking the high point, like from where the photo was taken?
Yes.
Okay, let me, I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, so I don't know if maybe that photo. Oh, sorry about that.
If you double click on it or hit F5.
Yeah, I went F5 and it took me to the beginning. That's why.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you have to hit Shift F5, but I
Okay.
just hit F5. So. Okay, there we go. So this is what I think you're talking about, Mark. Is it?
Yeah. So we went in a counterclockwise direction around the lake.
Yeah, to the right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when we got to the far shore, we went up to a high point. I don't know whether we would have gone through the pass and then
I think we must have gone through the pass and then gone to the right.
Okay.
That's
because it looks too steep otherwise, but
yeah, this isn't the best photo. I've got another photo of Knothole Lake that actually shows it. Because I remember this this what I call an ice dam or a snow dam. Jeff, do you remember this at all? The snow wall?
No, it's been 20 years since I've been up there.
Yeah, okay. It's been almost that long for me too, but this was I always remember this being so noticeable, and we had to go up and around it. Now, you know, somehow I'm thinking that we actually had to go around to the right. And not, I don't think we could walk around to this point here. I think we had to go over to the right, which is not showing in this photo, and then make our way over to there. Because we had to go over by that rock, that snow wall. And I didn't include that photograph. See, because I think this is the end of the lake where that photo was taken. And over here is the pass.
So we could have maybe gone partway around and then gone up, maybe, I don't know.
Well, I think that snow wall is below here somewhere.
Oh.
And I think you go around that and then make your way over to the sort of the pass area, if I remember right. Because the rock goes right into the lake.
Yeah, it didn't look like you could get around right up the lake.
Like here, it doesn't look like you could walk along there. So I think you go off to the right and then come over somehow.
Okay.
But I think somehow we came down to here because I think that's where this is.
Can you walk around the other side of the lake?
No.
No.
Well, not around. Well, maybe you might be able to go higher up, but I whenever I went, it was always around the right-hand side of the lake.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
And Jeff, do you remember at all when you guys did Pinecone Peak? Did you actually get to the lake, or do you think you?
I think we got to the lake, and then I think we went around the left side and up onto the ridge.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think we went to the pass.
Right. Yeah, and I again, this photo doesn't show it, but you know what? Here's something. See if I can do this. Give me a second here.
see. Oh, yeah.
What's that noise?
Oh, that's probably Nicholas.
Oh, okay.
I'm just looking at my map. Yeah, when we went up Pinecone Peak, we went around the left side. And when
Okay.
we went over to Seed Peak, we went around the right side.
Okay,
But-
yeah, that makes sense.
And when we went around to Seed Peak, we didn't go to the pass. We went straight up the little 6,100 footer, 6,200 footer, sort of directly south of the lake, the end of the lake. So, yeah. But we have circumnavigated Knothole Lake, not at the lake level, but going up to the pass and then down the other side.
Which lake? Knothole Lake?
Knothole.
Knothole Lake. Okay. So this is Knothole Lake here. So I think this somewhere in here, I think is that that dam that I was talking about. Let me see if I can. Yeah, my guess is that to because this is where that photo was taken, where you walk the ridge and get to this point here. I think when you go around and then up through here somehow, and then over to the top of the pass, and then you look down. See from there, you look down into Pinecone Lake. So because you can't, you've got this big rock wall here that you can't walk around and go straight up the pass. You have to come over to the right and then in.
Mhm.
And so this is what you were talking about, Jeff, in that somewhere around the lake here, this is the ridge that will take you up to Pinecone Peak.
Right, yeah.
So, and then actually this is the ridge that you're talking about that you walked, is this ridge here. But it,
Yeah.
it doesn't, this Google 3D doesn't, it doesn't show all the steep sections. I've looked at some stuff that I know is impossible to walk, and it doesn't look too bad on the maps. But I think this is peak 6,500 or something like that, is it? The first one?
So the first peak south of the pass is 6,200.
Oh, 6,200, okay.
And then the next peak is Seed, which is 65.
Okay. Well, that's oh boy, that's Gillespie.
That's
So
close.
So that must be Seed there then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's Gillespie and Seed was the other one.
Oh, okay. So okay. It actually doesn't look too bad. I thought there was another peak in there that was stopping you from getting to.
Well, there's sort of a humpy ridge between sort of north of that glacier and the bowl.
Interesting. But you don't hear very many people going from Seed over towards Knothole.
No, the ridge is actually quite sharp. There's a lot of sort of gaps in if you stick right down the ridge.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. So she'll go over to Gillespie if anybody has any questions or whatever. This is what I've been looking at. So this is November Lake down here. So in '97, we went from here where we camped and along here somehow. And then as far as I can tell, we must have gone up this boulder field, and that's the same boulder field or boulder chute, I guess I should say, that Brian and I went up. So Brian and I, we came over and dropped down to where the creek comes out of the glacier bowl. And then we had trouble in this area here trying to get out of here and get over to this moraine. But once we got up onto here, then it wasn't a problem. We were able to climb up the moraine. we just had to drop down off the moraine
Yeah.
and then go up this boulder chute. But we didn't know when we went up this boulder chute if it was just going to be a dead end. But as it turned out, we got to the top of the boulder field, and then it was easy to get up onto the actual ridge. But the problem was this section here, getting out of there and onto this moraine. So, but when I looked at coming back from the ridge, it looked like if you got onto it lower down, like down here, you didn't have to worry about these cliffs in here. You could just get onto the moraine and, you know, either walk along the side of it and then get into the boulder field and up. So if at some point I'd like to go back and try it from November Lake. But, you know, what I would do is, you know, go higher, try and get higher on the, from the lake, go up higher, and then, you know, try and pick a route going across. You know, it looks really steep, but, you know, when we were up on the ridge, Brian and I, when we were up on the ridge walking along, every time you go up and over one of these things and come down, it honestly looks like you don't need to go up the next one. It looks like you could just carry on below and go around those high points. And we were tempted, you know, at one point almost of trying it, but it's a matter of that you don't know if you're going to get yourself stuck or if you're going to have to return, you know, and come back or what. So we just stuck to the route, you know, and it's a trail at that point going over the ridges, but it was just up and down that it didn't look like you really needed to do it, but that's the way that people were going. So, and, you know, it certainly gave us beautiful views, no doubt about that. But, you know, coming back, you're gaining a lot of elevation that I don't think you need to.
Sorry, Ian, did you have difficulties breathing there because of the elevation?
No, it's I don't notice elevation. Usually, sometimes at 6,000 feet I'll feel it, but generally it's like 7,000 feet when I start feeling so called, you know, lack of oxygen or feeling tired, or not tired, but out of breath. I haven't done a lot of high hiking. I've done some up around 8,000 feet, and I certainly notice it at 8,000 feet. Difficulty, or not so much difficult, but it just, you seem to have to breathe more, and you have to take more breaks. But yeah, I honestly, I don't know, Brian, if you felt it or not, other than it just being steep. In some places you had to take a breather, but I didn't personally notice it from lack of oxygen anyways.
Yeah, probably not for that reason. I was blaming that, but yeah, I have to say that Ian is one of the most patient hiking buddies you could have. Yes, I had to take, not so much on the first day I was okay, but by the second day my legs knew they already had a workout, so they were sort of asking me why I was doing it to them again. I took a lot of breaks on the climb up, and at a couple of stages actually I thought this has got to be it, but Ian was always encouraging me, and I just put one foot in front of the other, took breaks when necessary, and yeah, eventually got there. So it's not the altitude, not at that. I think Ian's right. It'd probably be higher than that, 7,000 to 8,000 that you'd really start to feel.
Yeah, and just Brian, on the first, I thought you were to some degree struggling, maybe even a little bit more in the first day in Seed Peak, in that you didn't have as much water with you.
That is true. Yes,
and
I learned. Yeah.
And also I find the day before you go on a big trip that you really want to load up on water, and have a good dinner with high carbs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And but certainly, you know, we didn't eat much on the first day, and we weren't drinking as much. Where on the second day you were drinking more,
Yeah.
and it was a longer day. It was, I think, close to 4 hours longer on the second day
Yeah.
of hiking than the first day.
Yeah.
Um,
We were going for at least 12 hours. Like
Yeah.
it was a long day.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a very educational experience.
The other thing I thought, while I thought about it, was we were right. This is Gillespie here, and we were somewhere down here. Just found a shady rock to take a break in behind and have a drink in that. And Brian, you know, kind of like looked up at the top, and I don't know if he was still thinking that he may not make it to the top or not at that point, but he looked up and he said, "Oh, it's got to be like an hour to the top." And I said, no. I said, it's only about 20 minutes away. And sure enough, it was. I think it might even have been less than 20 minutes, and we were
Yeah.
on the summit. So,
Yeah.
but again, it's, you know, I'd been there before, and Mark and I both thought the same thing, that, you know, when you get on the ridge and you look up it, you think, how are we going to get up that?
Mm-hmm.
And then once you're on it, it's not as bad as it seems. I was just going to also show you this area. This is November Lake over here, and I was talking about Jeff and I doing a presentation on this area over here. So this is a real wonderful area with lots of lakes and stuff. So anyway, so this area in here, Jeff's got a bunch of great photos, and I've got some photos of this area as well. So I think that'll be a quite nice presentation. We'll maybe combine it with some photos of the upper Boise or the Mamquam area as well. But I think that'll be a nice presentation. So anyways, did anybody have any questions about, well, I've got the map here going around, or I don't even know if who's left out there.
Just one thing, where's the creek coming out of the so-called ice flow? Where do you think that exact point might be?
Well, that's the ice flow there. Like that's the glacier, and it comes right out here.
So we would have had lunch there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know if I can. Yeah, it's quite rocky, right, in that area.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so this, just closing in on this. So this is the section that, you know, you couldn't just cross right here because that was all water. So when we had to come down off of this, and we had to walk back this way and then cross somewhere back in here.
And when we came 2021?
No, yes, this year, yeah. So when we came down from Gillespie, we came down here to the Cole, and then we had to walk around here and then up this a little ways to cross the creek, and then go back this way, and then up and over this rocky hump here.
Yeah.
But going, you know, Brian and I, we came down this way, came along here, crossed the creek, and then we tried to come up some of these sort of cliff areas in here, not knowing at the time that we could have walked down further, I guess, but you would be going downhill, you know, cross at the bottom of it, and then go back up. But
it's deceptive.
Where do you think we were situated in 97? Farther down?
I think so. I think we crossed somewhere in here.
And went up the slabs behind the creek.
Yeah, somehow I think, you know, some through here. See, I don't remember this boulder field from 97, but that's the only way that you can really get on the ridge. Yeah. So we had to do that.
Okay.
And what I really remember is being with David Hennessy, and we decided we were going to take a different route. And all I can think about now is that it might have been here where we decided we were going to climb up on top of this. And then we got to the end of it, and then we had to drop off of it to meet up with the rest of the group. I don't know where else that could have happened.
Mhm.
So, and that's a bit of a question, but I distinctly remember that Dave and I decided to start going up higher than the rest of the group.
Mhm.
And we got up on this rocky top and we walked along it, and then all of a sudden it dropped off. And Dave and I actually had difficulty trying to get off of that to get down to where the rest of the group was. And I think it had to be at this point here, because I remember it being not too long before we actually had to go up onto the main Gillespie Ridge. So I think it probably has to be this, but
Mm.
so and Jeff did it in the snow.
Yeah, so we actually avoided all of that. We went to the north of all those bumps and straight across the glacier to the call.
Right.
Yeah, just like
But
that.
it was all snow at the time.
Yeah.
So what month were you in?
April or May. I'd
Okay.
have to check.
Right. And so was there any fear at all of crossing the glacier or that?
It was just solid snow all the way.
Yeah. Okay.
It really, it was good going. The snow was in pretty good shape for the most part.
And so you had snow all the way up the ridge and
All
like
the way
right
up
to
the
the right to the summit.
And we actually we went up the same way that you did, but we actually came down off to the east and circled back to the call.
Oh, really? Okay. Like
Oh.
over this way. And then through the call.
Let's see. So okay, you're approaching. Oh, yeah. You see that big snowfield on the? Oops, lost it
Right
again.
here?
Yeah, yeah, right down there. We came down that.
Okay.
There's sort of
Like
snow.
that from the summit you went off.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Wow.
sure that's what we did. We definitely came down. I think it was that snow tongue and then back to the. But that was all snow at the time.
Okay.
That
Yeah,
whole snow.
there's some really. I don't think I took photos of it. I don't know if it shows up on here. It might even be in the snow here, but the summit's here. But there's some. No, maybe it's down here. There's some really interesting slabs in here of like flat rock, and there was snow on it that you could just see the snow would just slide off of these big slabs. And when I talk about big slabs, they were like 40 or 50 feet long, or wide, I should say. And, just massive slabs of flat rock, angling off of here. But actually, there's more snow on this than Brian and I experienced in September. And this is what, I think Mark was talking about, that, these long areas of snow that were basically cornices.
Mhm.
And when I looked at some of the photos, again, I didn't bother scanning the photos. I took photos from near the summit, looking down at people walking down. They could have walked on the rocks, but it was easier walking on the snow.
Mhm.
And they were walking, on this sort of edge. They were away from the cornice.
What kind of rock is that? Is it granite or is it a pumice or what?
I'm not good with my rock, not so.
It's not. I don't think it's volcanic.
I think a lot of it was granite.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, granite has the specks and that in it, right?
Mhm.
But
Yeah, there's sort of a 32 different kinds of granite. So
oh, okay. Well, I
it's
can.
kind of hard to say, but it was definitely not volcanic.
No. A lot of the rock was very smooth, as I recall.
Yeah, I can show you some close-ups. So, Mark, I think this is the creek that comes out of
Knothole?
no, out of the glacier bowl.
Yeah, that
And
that looks sort of like what our lunch spot looked like.
That's what I'm getting at. That quite possibly could have been somewhere like that.
Yeah.
But I was just gonna say, okay, yeah. So that's I got close up ahead here. So Elaine, if that's the rock there, if that's about as close as I've, yeah, I'm not, well, there's close up too, so
Mhm.
I'm not,
I'm
I
sure
don't
it's,
know my rocks.
yeah, I'm sure it's granite.
Yeah, okay, there you go. That's close up, more close up, so.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, anyways, I love this 3D in Google, and probably Google Earth is maybe better, but I just love it the way I can, you know, swing it around and
Yeah.
and look like right in here somewhere is that what they call the crux or whatever of getting up Gillespie, and it's not really what I would call a crux, but it was a bit of a difficult section.
It's really helpful when you can trace out the trail that you follow and so on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it answers some questions, Elaine, and then it leaves other ones that you need to go back and have a look at.
Yeah.
It answers some questions and other ones, or there's more questions. So, but anyways, does anybody have any other questions?
I think Bruce is going to be really sorry that he missed this.
He'll get to see it.
Yeah.
You know,
I love talking about this area, so I don't have a.
I'd enjoy seeing this presentation again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very good, Ian.
Oh, good. Yeah, I put a lot of work into it in that, but you know,
yeah, there's a couple of slides there.
Yeah. Yeah,
I was counting the numbers.
Well, the one of the problems is my all these different slides were in different trays that were around from other presentations, so I had to go through all these all these photos to try and pick out the right ones and try and find the ones that I really wanted in that. So
I like the one you've got where you can see the logging roads in the background, and I forget where that's taken from, but you can see.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a couple that I have that you can see the
so Ian, when you do your scanning, do you use a scanner, or do you just project the photos and take a photo of the projected?
Oh no, I've got an actual flatbed scanner.
Okay.
So it scans four slides at a time.
Okay.
But it's not fast by any means, but you know, if you're having to find your slides, and then, you know, I just do a little bit of a clean before I put the slides into the scanner. And you know, like this is a scan, right? So it's you know, it's reasonable quality. It's not high end quality in that, but it's good enough to show on a presentation like this. So
yeah, it looks pretty good to me.
Okay,
Yeah, it
good.
looks great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I think that picture you're showing now might be the picture that was in the newsletter, December 1997.
Yeah, quite possible. Yeah.
Or a similar shot if Ken Baker took it, I don't know. But
Yeah, and Don would have been posing, right? So Ken could have taken shots as well. Like I know Ken had a group photo that he put in the or it got put in one of the local newspapers. And I know Norma, I think, was giving out copies of Ken's photo that he took of the group. So I'm not sure if he put his camera, if I brought up my tripod or not, but well, Ken might have taken his tripod up there too. I don't know.
That's really quite impressive that the whole Gillespie family came out and they got up there.
Yeah.
They were able to pose for that photo. Yeah.
Well, I did put it out to this presentation out to the Gillespie family and said that, you know, if I would even do it again for them and that, but Dee was hoping to show up. I didn't see her on there, but I shall stop sharing. I'm not sure. Oh, there's still a few people out there.
Yeah, I don't think there were any Gillespies on the call.
Okay, I didn't
Not
see
that I
any,
saw.
so yeah. Yeah. So Meshtel, you're still there. What do you think about the route that we took?
It's interesting because you were really going for the south side, and you got yourself trapped in these rocks and these creek crossings. And it's, of course, it was different September. And in August and July, we went up to the north and we bypassed the lake on the north, and it was absolutely no issue at all.
Right.
So it's just, it's really straightforward. And so when I saw you trying to find your way through these rocks, I said, oh my God, this looks so hard. But yeah, no, that's awesome.
Well, but you came down that snow ramp, right? So you would.
Yeah, there's a lot of snow ramps.
No, but the one that came off the Gillespie Ridge.
Right.
I'll go
Yes.
back.
So we went up the couloir and up the sketchy stretch where there's lots of loose rock and stuff. And then we came down the snow chute and we rejoined the snow field, like the glacier, and then we bypassed the lake on the right-hand side.
Yeah, so I know. I looked at your photos again, and it looked like you guys walked along this side here.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And
You have
then-
to stay out of the steep stuff, but yeah, you just go around. Exactly. Yes.
You came around here.
Yeah, and there's a snow
and then
thing.
this-
Yes.
So this is the sort of the coal, like there was no
Yes.
snow in there when we were there. But
Yeah, it's less
that's the sort of
that's
the
a
coal
standard
here and then
access
up.
route. That's how
But
you went
on
up.
on
Yeah.
your way down,
Yeah.
you
Yes.
came,
There.
you came down
Yes.
some sort of snowshoe
Yes.
over here,
Well, your cursor was just a moment ago. Yeah. There. No.
right there, right there.
That one. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
Well,
came
let's see-
down that
okay.
one.
Okay, let me see here if this is, yeah, because there's the rock, that's the rock that we went up. And that was the same. We could have come down this on the left-hand side of this. We didn't have an ice axis with us.
Yes.
But we could have come down the left side of this. There was the snow here. There was enough rocks and stuff. We could have come down the left side. But on the way down, I decided to try the route that seems to be, I call it the standard route, going from the
Yeah.
coal up. But
Yeah. It's always
and
choose your own
we-
adventure.
and we didn't have that big of a deal coming down, but it was slow going and loose and that. But just trying to look here. So yeah, so that's the outlet there. But you could, yeah, you were coming from this direction here, because you did at one time you went over this, but most of the time you were coming around here.
Yeah, we did this 4 times, right? So on 2 different
Right.
trips there and back. And once
Yeah.
we went over the ridge like you did,
Yeah.
and we found it was a lot of up and down, and you have to navigate the terrain.
Yeah.
And if you just keep going past the junction and keep going towards Seed first, I mean,
Yeah.
as you ascend, and then turn right a little bit later, and you come into the bowl directly.
Yeah.
And then you just traverse the bowl, which is really easy in July and August. So
Right.
yeah, just around there. So we bypassed all these bumps and creek crossings and stuff.
Well, the creek crossing wasn't a big deal, but
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, it's very interesting. It's kind of everybody does it their own way, right? And
yeah. Well, this is the area that you're talking about.
yeah, we probably were even to the left of that when we went down.
Well, this is the way you go down into, but you can see how much water there is there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was very sketchy. I would not have gone anywhere near that.
Yeah, and you couldn't go around to
Even
the
for a swim?
Oh no.
I didn't have my speedo.
Yeah, you know, I'm all into swimming in that, but I'm just gonna, because I've got photos from looking the other way just to see what it.
Because you wouldn't be able to go around the left-hand side of it.
Well, it'd be a longer way so that's what you're talking about, that you were
Yes.
on walking over here.
Yes, exactly.
Now, see, now there was snow on it when you were there, where now I think that's just ice.
It is ice, yeah. So you have to have some traction device. It doesn't really have crevasses where you can fall in. I mean, it does have some streams where you have to watch out. We kind of got our feet wet a couple times, but
Okay.
But
that's what you're talking about. You walk across this somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah. See, me personally, I'd sooner be on the rocks. So
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Choose your own adventure.
Yeah. But I still want to try it from November Lake because I think that's actually an easier way. So, but
Another, yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Another thing that's really interesting is what we did is, if anybody wants to try it, is to traverse from Seat to Gillespie, that ridge, which is just behind. You can't quite see it in your picture.
Yeah, I'll
right now. Yeah, that's beautiful.
So yeah, so that's what you're talking about. So so this is Gillespie here, and that coming down here to the Cole, and then you're talking about this ridge in here.
This ridge, yes.
So it didn't look what I would call easy coming down this ridge here. You had to be careful coming down this, I would think.
It looks worse than it is.
Yeah, okay.
It's really not that bad.
Okay. Because when we came down, I was looking up it because I knew, there had been a few people in your group that had done the traverse. So this would be Seed Peak up here. And we actually we came up instead of staying on the ridge here, and this is my fault, but we came up. We might have even come up here actually.
There is an access point there. That's
Yeah,
the only one.
Okay.
Except for the ends.
And there was actually a beautiful view of Pinecone Lake from there as well. Maybe even better than from the top of Seed, but we came up here and then got to the peak. But on the way down, we came down more on the ridge coming down.
Yeah, one of our guys, he went by himself ahead of us. He didn't stay overnight.
Yeah.
He went up, like you said, up that little col there to the ridge.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then to the right, and
Okay.
then down into the col to Gillespie, and then to the right up into Gillespie. So that was his day.
So he didn't go up and Seed then?
He did not go up to Seed. No,
Yeah,
he just went up to this saddle between Seed and the rest of the ridge.
Right.
And we asked him how it was, and then he said the dogs made it. He had 2 dogs with him.
Yeah,
so-
that's right too. I remember reading that you were saying about, because you were, well, for one thing, you were talking about the crux on Gillespie, that you were saying, it's like, class 3 or whatever. And he made the comment of, well, the dogs made it.
Yes.
So
don't know
so
how-
it couldn't it couldn't have been, too bad kind of
Yes.
idea. So but it's that crux, if you want to call it that, is, it's, I don't know, it's something like 8 to 10 feet. So you could lift a dog up and, have them
or a
scramble up
pack,
or something.
an overnight pack. You can pass it to the other person. And,
Yeah, and that's
don't
what
get
we did,
stuck.
especially coming down. We took off our packs and dropped them down. But
Yeah.
just the problem with that little crux part is that it's on a steep section. So if you lost your footing and you went backwards, you wouldn't just sort of fall down. You would go tumbling down the ridge. So that's where the difficulty is, and there isn't sort of great or easy to spot sort of handholds. Now once you've done it once, you know that you can reach a little bit higher up and find something to grab onto. But when you come to it the first time, you're not sure where you're going to be able to put your foot or put your hands to have something to grab onto.
I'm gonna leave you guys, but thank you so much, Ian. That was fantastic.
Good. No, thanks for showing up, Elaine. So you can tell Bruce all about it.
He'll be sorry he missed.
Yeah. So. All right. Is Victoria still there, or is she sleeping?
I'm following every word.
Oh, well, good for you.
I've discovered on Zoom that you can like add little ears and nose to your face.
To mine or to your own?
To anyone's, yeah, to your own, yeah. So
So you've been doing that with everybody?
I've just been playing with these other buttons. There's loads of stuff in here.
This would be great for Halloween.
Yes.
Yes, you can do all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
You can be a kid again.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
She's back.
No, really, really good, Ian. Really
Oh, good.
enjoyed it. I
Good.
I just
But give us an example of the ears and the nose.
And Steve, you've been quiet tonight.
Yes.
Well, you've been up there since the roads improved, so you can see where we walked in 2017 compared to driving now, eh?
Yeah, it was crazy the difference between when we went for Fool's Gold and
you wouldn't even
this
know,
year.
you wouldn't even know the bush was on, that part where we were walking up that big switchback. You wouldn't even have known the bush was there. Like it's gone. Oh, beautiful.
Nice.
Jeff's getting into it as well. So
yeah, well, I was a passenger this time, and I didn't even recognize the road for most of it. Right, it was just so different.
And the first 4 kilometers is the worst with all the potholes and stuff. But then after that, the road is in really good shape. But I know you had some problems coming back, so it wasn't as nice of a trip coming back for you. But
yeah, that's an understatement. But yeah, that could happen anywhere. That could happen on Quarry Road. It wasn't even a tricky bit of the road when we got the blowout. It was just one of those bad luck things.
Yeah, Steve was with somebody and they basically blew a tire coming back. And it was an hour and a half or something you were on the road, and then somebody came along and was able to help you?
It was, I mean, it put us back from when it happened. I think we were about 2.5 hours or something because we were waiting, and then it took a while to actually get the spare on it.
Yeah.
That was probably far worse than any crooks on the ridge. Even though I didn't get up the ridge, it was, figuring out how to retrieve the spare tire and finding out that jacking points didn't work as per the manual. Right, it was that was a pretty big learning curve.
Wow.
And anyone who's driving up there, it's always good advice to actually work out all that stuff on your car before you get up there, because jacking up a car on a paved surface is a totally different ball game to doing it on a sloped logging road with loose gravel.
No. And
it's lucky them 2 lads came up.
If 2 lads hadn't come by, we would probably still be up there now.
How does this thing work?
Challenges in life,
Well, I know somebody, I don't know if you know what a jackal is, but it's basically a giant bumper, the old bumper jacks, but it's about like 4 feet tall. I have one, and a friend of mine, this is probably 20-30 years ago, he got himself caught on a logging road that he couldn't turn around on. And he literally used a jackal to lift his vehicle up and push it over, and do that multiple times to actually turn his vehicle around on a logging road.
Wow.
Yeah. So never had to do that.
Yeah.
But these are all the things you put in the back of your head. Like, when we went up there, I took the jackal with me just in case you're in that sort of situation. But also the other thing that came out of that too was that to come back in groups rather than leaving somebody up there on their own. If you've got 2 vehicles to stay together in case someone does have problems.
Yeah, that was the error we made, right? Because there was 3 groups of 2 coming down on the last morning, and that we're in radio contact hiking down, and then we all sort of assume, we're back to the logging road now, everything's good, because those are the vehicles up there, right? You feel like you're back in civilization, and when it happened, everyone was dark. They'd gone out of range, so we're sort of on our own.
Well, thinking about like driving in, we were checking cell reception, and we had cell reception, I think, for about the first 10 kilometers, but we actually, or Brian got cell reception in quite a few places up on the ridge in that. And my phone wasn't as good, but I was able to make phone calls from the top of Seed, and that tarn that's right near when you first get into sort of the true alpine area. But Brian was getting cell reception all over the place, but not where we camped.
I was
Had to
actually
get-
able to send some photos that I took with my phone, and
Yeah.
I didn't take my real camera. Just all the photos I took were with my phone. I was actually send photos via text message and by WhatsApp from the very peak of
Right.
Mount
Gillespie.
Gillespie.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so but Squamish, is it's pretty direct from there. But
Yeah, and being pretty high, I guess the
Yeah.
frequency waves were pretty clear. That's the only thing I can guess.
yeah, but yeah, I was surprised that we had reasonably good cell reception.
I found on the login road when we actually needed it, there was nothing. And there was
Yeah.
actually nothing for quite a
Yeah.
while. I mean, we're
Yeah.
almost back in Squamish before we got it back, the cell phone
Yeah.
reception. But actually, the higher we went, the better, really. So where we were camped, I had some reception, certainly
Right.
higher on the
Yeah.
mountain. Still, it was even better.
Yeah, same. We were where you camped. We were getting, or Brian was getting cell reception there. So
I did Garibaldi this year.
oh, okay,
Yeah, it was
the
fun.
Garibaldi Lake.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I hiked all.
Yeah, it's a long ways.
Yeah, it is.
Actually, Steve, you were on the BMN trip when we did Garibaldi, I believe.
Yeah,
I think
that
so, yes.
was-
I think you had toe
that-
problems or something coming in.
Jackie was with us as well.
Yes.
So
Yes.
she did that. Yeah.
You had blisters.
Yeah, my feet got ripped up on that.
Yeah.
Probably the worst they've ever been. Just because of that perfectly easy grade, right? And
That's right.
it's got that same motion or all the way up and down.
Well, it's like
Oh,
it's
yeah.
9 kilometers or something going up, but it's just it's elevation all the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a.
So did you have
uh,
good weather, Mahasti?
Yeah, it was good. I think we went on September end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but the water was really warm. We really have a dream to swim, but it was heavy raining. We couldn't go.
Ah.
Oh,
inside.
okay.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Yeah,
I've
it's
got
first-
a one black big toe nail on my left
Oh,
foot
yeah.
from my big toe taking an absolute beating, coming
Down.
back from the hikes on both days. It's black.
No
Oh,
pictures.
not of
Yeah,
my
where were the
toe,
photos?
No.
Where
You
are the
don't
toe
wanna see that.
photos?
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay.
Well,
I've got socks on. It's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not
And-
that
and
sort
half-
of video.
And half your leg was kind of like disappearing in the
Yeah.
background anyway. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like when Brian has got some sort of laptop off to his left, and every now and then he'll turn sideways and he'll put his head down and his head disappears. So it's,
It looked like you and Ian had the exact same tents, Brian, is that right? Or
well, sort of.
It was actually Ian's tent.
They're both my
Yeah.
tents. Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
when MEC was moving from their Broadway location to the new location, they had sales on stuff, and so I bought a 1-man and a 2-man tent, and so that was actually the first time I had them out. Like, bought the 1-man tent for myself and bought the 2-man tent for Deanna and I to do some backpacking, and hadn't been used, so it was good chance to take them out. And on the second night in the morning, we got some pretty good rain, so was able to test them out in the rain, and they did well. So actually, I was going to say, Meshtel, you also did your trip to the Pit Divide up into the Five Fingers area.
Yes.
So are you going to have a SAR presentation on that?
Well, you have to ask Jim about that. He's in charge.
Oh, okay. I'm just asking ahead of time if I could get an invite to that. So
I'm sure he'll remember you, yes.
Okay.
I'll remind him.
If Sarah would allow me to come in there, I'd love to. So.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much, Ian.
Yeah, I think that should be good for the night.
It was very nice.
Just to finish up, has anyone got any hiking plans in the future? Has anyone got anything exciting that they plan on doing in the
Saturday?
Near future?
No,
Oh,
I'm doing a city of Coquitlam hike on
okay.
Saturday, but
Oh.
but the weather for the weekend is this
Iffy.
morning they were calling for Sunday being the dry day, and now they're calling for rain Sunday and sunny on Saturday afternoon. So you got to keep this time of year. You just got to keep on watching the weather, and it changes so much. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping for a dry Saturday because we're doing the Rotary Club plus a whole bunch of volunteers planting, having a planting bee up at West Hill Park to fill in the old decommissioned trails that we've closed off.
Oh, great!
Yeah,
city's
good.
Furnished us a whole boatload of plants, which I'll take delivery of tomorrow afternoon.
Knotweed and ivy and things.
I actually stole some from the Mobile Slough.
Perfect.
And I'm going to plant it up at West Hill. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. So we're having a planting bee on Saturday morning from 9 till 1. Yeah.
That sounds about the exact same time I'll be hiking with the city of Coquitlam. So.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, on Saturday as well, I'm going to be doing a City Coquitlam navigation course.
Oh, that's right too. Yeah.
So it's a busy time Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Yes. Actually, Steve, I was going to mention, I just finally actually bought a decent GPS. It's a Garmin GPS map 64S. Can you download your Tri-Cities map onto GPSs?
Sort of, yeah. I managed to do it on my SAR one. I can't remember what the model number is, but it'd be similar to that.
Okay.
It was a bit of a science experiment, so it's not sort of designed to do that because the image is sort of super big for ancient technology like that. So if I'm using my map on the GPS, it's really slow. Like you'll scroll and then it'll react, and it'll always complain that I'm sort of out of memory. So it is possible.
But maybe not worth it.
It might be. We can certainly have a play with it because it might be a better model what you've got than what I've got if it's a bit newer.
Right.
Yeah, you have to go in and sort of load the georeference file on the computer and sort of do it that way.
Okay. Is it time consuming?
I can't remember. It's been a few years since I did it. If it works, it's probably half an hour.
Okay.
If it doesn't work, it could be a lot longer.
Days.
But you can take it off. Like if it's causing it to be too slow or whatever, you can take it off, can't you?
Yeah, you can individually enable and disable the map layers on there anyway. There's different layers on your GPS. So if you turn it off, it stops any of the slowness.
Okay. Yeah, so. All right.
Okay, great.
Well, good. Well, thanks very much, everybody.
That was terrific.
Again.
Much appreciated.
Great. Well, Jeff, we'll connect about another presentation. So.
Okay, sure. Yeah, anytime.
Okay, great.
Nice meeting you. Bye, Victoria. Bye, Mark.
Great to see you, Mahasi.
Nice to see
Bye,
you.
Brian.
Yeah.
Oh, there she is.
Yeah.
Was that a kitty cat?
Yes.
Or you're not just putting ears on like
No, it moves. It's here it goes. Oh, there we go. There we go.
There's kitty cat.
Yeah. Okay.
Victoria and Jim, where's your cats?
Under the bed.
Oh, you're on, your mic's on, Victoria, so your mouth is moving, but
I have one right beside me, but you can't pick them up and throw them over their shoulders.
I know.
Yeah, that's a nice one. Oh, look at that. That's lovely.
Yeah.
Oh.
all about the cat. Sorry. I should.
All right.
Gives me a hard time. There he goes.
Just keep
Very
away
nice.
from Jeff's bird. That's all.
BMN should have a bring your pet to the show and share.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll bring in a feral cat or a raccoon or something.
Well, Nicholas enjoyed the meeting, so
Good.
yeah, no, you couldn't see him. He was
Well,
here.
he was making more noise than some other people. So.
Yeah, that's true.
And Victoria, by any chance, did you see what the numbers were?
Gosh.
Oh, I noticed it
20
down. I think it was 28.
20 something? Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say
29
26.
for sure.
29 for sure.
29. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the indicator, but they may have been doubles, I'm guessing.
But I think
Oh,
Jim
yeah.
two logins, so it's 28 real
Yeah.
logins.
Oh, that's right too. Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah.
and some people from the same household on 2 different computers. Actually, I don't know if anybody knows, but Deanna was on for a while. So
I saw her. Yeah.
she worked late, and then I could hear her in the other room on it. But all right. Anyways,
Okay,
have a good night, guys. I'll end it
Thank you
here.
very much, Ian. It was
Bye.
great.
Take care.
Good night.
Happy hiking.
Yes, sir.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night, guys.
Bye.